Richard, roll tide. How's the offseason going? Especially, how are you doing coaching your son's baseball team?
Roll Tide, first off, it's been an outstanding off season and summer. You can find me out there coaching youth sports. It's been a lot of joy, and it definitely helps me to be a better analyst when I can get on the sideline on the ball field myself. It's been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying every bit of it.
Are you a patient coach? Do you kind of let things play out? Or are you on these guys all the time?
Oh, I'm on you, but I'm definitely going to be cool, calm, and collected. That's just my style. But I'm going to hope for everyone's best, and that's what we expect. But it's a lot of fun too.
That's certainly good to hear. Well, we wanted to have you on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, before we take a little break for the summer, because over the past few weeks here in June, there's been a lot of news around this Alabama men's basketball program. And we'll start with some coaching changes for this team. Obviously, Nate Oats is back once again as the head coach of the Crimson Tide, but he loses three assistants, Richard, from the staff that he's had throughout the past 4 years. And you got to be happy to see all of those assistant coaches go on to become their own head coaches of very good programs.
Absolutely. A phenomenal all-star cast that Nate Oats has put together as a staff in recent years. And with the staff's resume of leading Alabama in the last 3 years to two doubles of the SEC tournament and regular season wins, it's an unprecedented situation to see three of your former assistant coaches go on to be head coaches. But that shows the strength of the program. But a lot of big shoes to replace because you have big-time recruiters and tacticians that Alabama and Nate Oats has had in the past. But one thing, you still have the head man in charge, so I'm sure he'll be able to fill the seats very well.
Yeah, it's the first time again that he's had to fill assistant coaching vacancies after Charlie Henry, Antoine Petway, Brian Hodgson had been on his staff throughout his run in Tuscaloosa. And as we mentioned, they're all three head coaches, and it's kind of rare these days in college basketball that you fill an assistant coaching role with a sitting head coach. But with Austin Claunch, that's exactly what Nate Oats did.
Well, he did that with an experienced coach who's been a former coach of the year in his conference and a very youthful and energetic coach. So he's definitely going to have the experience on his staff with head coaching and decision making with Claunch. So it's a great addition to Alabama's team. They'll definitely pick up right where they left off. It'll take a little bit of time for them to understand a new system, which Nate Oats likes to play, but at the same time, he's had a history of showing that his system is something that's easy and player-friendly and coach-friendly to pick up on. So the coaching staff with Coach Claunch and the addition of other coaches will be much more a huge addition for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, and on the last staff, Charlie Henry had some experience from the NBA as an assistant coach, head coach in the G League, and now once again, there's some NBA experience on the coaching staff for the Crimson Tide. Ryan Pannone comes over from the New Orleans Pelicans, and obviously there have been a lot of connections, Richard, between the Crimson Tide and the Pelicans in recent years.
Huge. Ryan Pannone is a brilliant young coach. He has a huge track record of not just coaching in the NBA and in the G League, but also as well overseas. He's been an assistant coach in the NBA, as well as a head coach in Europe, and an assistant coach for prestigious programs like Hapoel Jerusalem, who former Alabama basketball player Levi Randolph is playing for currently. So he's well-traveled as being the head coach of the Birmingham Squadron. He understands the players that have come from Alabama because he's coached, quite frankly, several of them. You talk about John Petty Jr. with the Birmingham Squadron, Herb Jones as the assistant coach with the Pelicans, and Kyra Lewis. So coming to Tuscaloosa, Ryan Pannone is a huge addition. He's known for his X's and O's. He has a lot of a European style when it comes to his X's and O's and tactics. So he's a huge addition to the staff, and I'm sure head coach Nate Oats will be able to utilize his talents very well.
Just how important is that on a coaching staff at the college level, having somebody with the professional experience that he brings?
Was huge because this is a new landscape of college basketball. On the professional ranks, your roster can change day by day, week by week. You have players who are called up to the NBA. You have players who are cut. You have trades that happen every single day. And now, as we've mentioned before, Nate Oats has done a tremendous job of showing how good of a coach he is in this new transfer portal NIL era where you have a new roster every single year. So when you can bring in a coach with NBA and European experience on the professional level, now you have someone who understands how to coach players who are on the roster when things change and be able to put players in positions to be successful on a short-term notice. So to get Pannone and Claunch on the staff, you have some people who really understand what it takes to add a roster because Alabama's roster has changed. You talk about a roster that just won the championship last year in the SEC, but it's going to be some new faces in Tuscaloosa this year, and the staff is going to be very important to have to be able to make that team gel.
Perfect segue into talking about some players that are leaving the program, but moving on to the National Basketball Association. We saw a lot of Crimson Tide highlights, Richard, last Thursday night when watching the NBA draft. Brandon Miller goes number 2 overall to the Charlotte Hornets. And then at number 21 overall going to the Brooklyn Nets is Noah Clowney. Nate Oats, his coaching staff, was there to celebrate with those guys in the NBA draft green room. Just what kind of moment was it for Alabama to have 2 first-rounders?
Well, that's a huge moment for Alabama as a program and for a university. When you talk about that you have a basketball program that is winning conference championships and making runs into March Madness, but at the same time, you're able to put your talent into the National Basketball Association and develop pros. It only makes your program even that more enticing. Brandon Miller, a phenomenal player, one of the best players to ever come to the University of Alabama, ties Antonio McDyess as the highest pick ever selected in the NBA draft with the number 2 overall pick. Is poised to have a spectacular NBA professional career, going to the Charlotte Hornets. And Noah Clowney came in a little bit as under the radar. A lot of people not knowing who he was when he came to Tuscaloosa, but he proved it night in, night out. He was a beast on the boards, showed a lot of versatility, knocking down shots from the outside, rangy defender with so much potential and upside, going 21st overall to the Brooklyn Nets. It's huge. It's not just huge for them because those players worked hard and now they got an opportunity to see what they can do on the next level. But now Alabama is not just a championship program. You're going to have a situation where many players see that this is an opportunity that you can not only come to a school and win, but you can come and showcase your talents for the next level.
So those 2 drafted last Thursday, and then on Friday we got the news that Charles Bediako from the Crimson Tide had signed a free agent deal with the San Antonio Spurs. For our fans that are a little unfamiliar about what it looks like if you're not drafted, signing a contract like Chuck did, what does the road for him look like over the next few years?
Well, you have to understand, first and foremost, in this era of college basketball, you must give a little bit of grace to athletes. You know, this is a new time. And essentially, with name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal, it's free agency every single year for every collegiate player. And you have to take your information that you get and weigh what is the best situation for you to be a professional or to move forward with your life. Charles Bediako, a tremendous player, had a phenomenal season his sophomore season, has some NBA potential when you talk about his rim protection and size, but quite frankly, a project who still has a lot of development to do and polish when it comes to his offensive game and other facets. But making the decision to go pro, here he is, he gets an opportunity to join the workforce. So he signed with the San Antonio Spurs, a free agent deal, not drafted. So, you know, the terms of the contract are a little bit different than being a lottery pick, but he'll have an opportunity to try to make the squad and show what he can do, but nonetheless, to continue his professional career.
Certainly excited about that for him. And as we mentioned, free agency really every year. And we haven't seen all the new additions to the roster officially be announced yet by Alabama, so we won't go into too many details on what the roster looks like now. We do know that Javon Quinterly has announced that after saying he was back with the Crimson Tide for this year, he's once again back in the transfer portal. Did that news surprise you last week?
Well, as I mentioned, this is free agency every single year. So you have to change your mindset to look at how things are in the landscape of college athletics. Every player has a little bit of mobility, and if they have an opportunity to put themselves in the portal to test the waters or maybe to leverage themselves for other opportunities, don't be surprised to see players do so. Javon Quinterly has been a tremendous player, the only player who was a part of both of those SEC championship teams and made outstanding runs and contributions in both. So here he is, a veteran in college basketball. You know what to expect from him, a dynamic playmaker. And now he's in the transfer portal, but at the same time, you have to wait and see what his final decision will be. You never know what can happen. He could be back in the crimson jersey. He may be elsewhere, but nonetheless, this is what you have in the current college basketball landscape.
Certainly is different. One thing that has not changed is Alabama playing in some really high-profile non-conference games. Coach Oats is always scheduled really hard. We know that Arizona and Purdue are going to be on the schedule coming up for this year, as well as Clemson. What do you think about the ACC-SEC challenge that'll start?
Well, Alabama and Clemson have always had, really good programs that battle it out on the court. So to see that that's going to be the challenge when Alabama getting to host that game, another opportunity for them to play a high caliber name brand opponent, and for a lot of people to get their eyes on this Alabama roster. So head coach Nate Oats has never been afraid to play anyone anywhere. And here they are again with a strong schedule that has a lot of high profile names and historical programs to play against. So I only expect them to continue to play hard. And if they can get themselves some quality wins, they'll find themselves back in the NCAA tournament, hopefully with a favorable seed for another year in recent years.
Crimson Tide hope to again be right in the driver's seat of the NCAA tournament like they were a year ago as the #1 overall seed. And it's going to be fun to see the journey that this team will take throughout 2023 and 2024. But Richard Hendrix, thank you so much for your time. Again, we just wanted to pick your brain a little bit about some of the news that's been happening with Alabama basketball in June. Just what's next for you over the next few weeks?
Well, I'll continue to enjoy coaching some youth sports, and you'll always find me on the sideline or somewhere doing something athletic. But looking forward to continuing to move forward to the basketball season and all the other sports seasons all over the country. So it'll be a lot of fun for me just watching sports.
Well, Richard, best of luck with everything that's coming up, and thank you again for your time on the Crimson Tide Sports Network today. Roll Tide.
Thank you. Roll Tide.